there you are. Hi. Welcome. Well, we got a special afternoon planned here. I got my new friend Ken hanging out. Shipwreck Tom's in the house. It's a good day in the desert. And I'm gonna play some songs inspired by the desert, inspired by some of the stuff I've been reading, and the Desert Oracle that you're gonna hear all about today. Stained letter, I should have known better. From Mile 27 down Palm 29, her juniper eyes, her coyote smile, like rust on a sunrise, old leather on pine. And I fell in love, high desert woman. She's all that I wanted, like nothing I've seen. She dance like an angel, swear like a sugar. She's nothing but trouble. She's perfect for me. And I fell in love. Drives an old record, her car's up on blocks. She laughs when it rains, she chews when she talks. She moves across the canyon like a lost melody, and I lose my cool when she's looking at me. And I feel with the high desert woman. She's all that I wanted, like nothing I've seen. She dances like an angel, swear like a trucker. She's nothing but trouble. She's perfect for me. And I feel fell in love. I fell in love. Cheers, y'all. It is good to have you with me again. I'll tell you what, after Science Tuesday and all our talk about intonation, my guitar was not cooperating with us too much on that last song, was it? So I'm going to talk a little bit maybe about it now and a little bit after this next song before I actually bring Ken on to hang with us at the gathering, which is really cool. I have not had a real live human being guest here with me in the desert yet, and it's just nice to be around humans every once in a while, isn't it? But I have been reading this book. It was called The Desert Oracle, as you can see. And it started actually as right, this kind of periodical, this journal called The Desert Oracle, a handbook for all things desert, mysterious, fantastical, historical, and Ken is the writer behind all of it. It's now become a radio show and a blog that y'all can download and listen to. But beyond all of that, it has become a staple for those that live here and share this desert, both because of Ken's way of being fantastical in his storytelling and his communication of the kind of amazing history around these parts, amazing and bizarre and anyways, as you all know, right? I'm new to being a part of this desert community, and it has hit me so hard. Allie and I both living here and just kind of immersing in this place, and so the latest part of my immersion has been to embrace the Desert Oracle, and pretty amazing that we could have Ken out and that he was willing to come and hang with us a little bit. So you know this, for those of you that gather nightly with me, and for you newcomers, we have a whole bunch of raven that live around here, and some of you also know that I'm fond of feeding the mice that I catch to both Crash, our roadrunner, and the raven out on the rocks, and I read a whole chapter inspired by raven out here recently, and so what better than to play the raven song, right? All right. It's late night, I dance with a raven under the moonlight. I chase my soul and it seemed like a curious haven. Will it take me down, take me down? Got a taste and I want some more. Bring the boys, let the fire start. Then the girls come to break our hearts. I wanna live, I wanna seize the day. Turn around, hear the wise ones say it's late night. Dance with the raven my soul, and it seemed like a curious haven. Will it take me down, take me down? In the hours when the bells don't toll, wanna dance, wanna lose control. Feel the burning inside my chest. That's the feeling that I like best. I wanna live, I wanna seize the day, but in the darkness I find my way. Is late night, dance with a raven under the moonlight. Taste my soul, and it seemed like a curious haven. Will it take me down, take me down? Well, it's late night, I dance with the raven under the moon. I taste my soul, and it seemed like a curious haven. Will it take me down, take me down? Lead the wave on. Well, there we go. Thank you for the claps. Thank you for the claps. You know, it's funny. Not until the Gathering series, I really didn't hardly ever played that song, and it's been a joy. That and many other new songs to get to share with y'all, and I love that you dig them. What's up, Jill? How you doing, sister? My neighbor from up on top of the mountain. We were on a hike the other day. We were up on the hike the other day. We were on the top of a mountain, and we were, and there's an old like, right, wagon trail that zigzags up this mountain. They call it Devil's Gate, and it zigzags up on the top of this mountain, and then it heads down the back side of the mountain into this area called Burns Canyon. And we did this long hike into Burns Canyon and up over this ridge, and we were on the back side of Devil's Gate. And this crazy lady on a mountain bike comes kind of zooming by this old road. And that was Jill. And now she's a friend. She's coming and hanging for her first gathering. Yeah. Partly because of me, yes, but partly I know she's a fan of the Desert Oracle too, and I respect that for sure. So before I bring Ken out, I have been actually like kind of really, I stole this book from Tom, as a matter of fact, and I have been totally kind of like immersed in kind of digging into Ken's storytelling, and there is so many pieces of history that touch upon the desert, from William Burroughs to Robert Oppenheimer, from Edward Abbey to Graham Parsons, and in the midst of these, and every piece of history has a story. And every story has an element of folklore. And there's some amazing folklore that comes with this place. There's a history here. People that were really escaping society for many different reasons. You know, outlaws and cultists and wanderers and philosophers and writers, travelers, and so Ken is like a lover of all of that stuff, and he bottles it up into his podcasts and his periodicals and his book. So I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna try this now. We tried to set this up earlier, and hopefully there we go. So we have the sunset cam going. We have our little microphone, and we've got 2 seats that are at a kind of safe socially distance. I'm gonna sit back here, and I'm gonna invite Ken Layne out to join us. Hey, bud.
Well, hello, Adam.
Cheers,
How you
man.
doing? Cheers.
Can you see all right? You got
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
All right.
Oh, that looks good. Hello, everybody.
The chat board's lighting up over you.
Oh, good.
Gatherers, this is Ken. Ken, say hi to the gatherers.
Hello. I'm Ken Layne. Like Adam so beautifully said. I work for this thing in the desert. So.
And the Desert Oracle, they call it the voice of the desert, and really, I love actually how in your podcast, your storytelling is so interspersed with music, and you actually have a deep love of music. I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but even in your book, there's a ton of music that has been touched by the desert and has influenced
music's
the
a
desert.
crucial part of culture.
Yeah.
And it marked this place like any other place in the world. You know, there's what the desert sound is not really a genre, but it's something that's created by people who are drawn to these places. Sometimes as folk or traditional music. It can be like the guy that I do my radio show with.
Oh, he's great, man. Will you tell our gatherers how they can look him up?
If you listen to our show or our podcast and you like the sounds, and it's a big part of it, there's a
All right.
hey,
We're back.
black helicopters.
They can't stop the signal, Ken. They can try, but they can't stop the signal.
They can't stop the truth.
You all should know. I hope that you are still out there gathering with us. Maybe it's a new feed now. Oh, there you are. They're faithful. They'll be back.
Oh, good.
There were many conspiracy theories afoot.
Yeah.
Just so happens that the Wi-Fi goes out as soon as I begin interviewing the Desert Oracle, a controversial figure for a number of reasons. Who knows?
There's certain information they don't want. They don't want you to hear out there, because Facebook has got to be kept completely factual. So as soon as you even say, like, if you get a historical date wrong, they cut you off.
Oh man, you know what I read, and this is because you I think you spent a lot of your youth in Arizona.
Some in Arizona,
some in Arizona,
some here.
Is it back further east?
And then I'm born and raised in New Orleans.
Okay, New Orleans, 9th Ward.
Yeah, lower
Right.
9th. Yeah. And my dad, he and his side are from Floyd County, Kentucky. So it's Appalachia on that side.
And I read of, the infamous road trip to Death Valley in your teens.
Yeah.
Is that when did this place really get you deep?
I think that's the point that it became apparent that I was going to have to live and work in the Mojave at some point. And this was a long time ago. And you could only do that if you had kind of figured out your life beforehand because there was no internet. There was no. You could not get Wi-Fi or cell phone service. There weren't cell phones.
Yeah.
And so the people who lived in a place like this, even though we're only about 3 hours from a big city, only about 3 hours, when you're in the desert, you casually talk about spending entire days on the road. You know, it's like, oh yeah, my aunt Lucinda, she moved up to Darwin and
Right down the road.
yeah, in Death Valley. It's like it's not even a whole day.
Yeah.
You get in the car and you drive from morning to night, and then you get there. So it was. I made a number of early trips to Death Valley, to Joshua Tree as well, to Northern Grand Canyon, the Arizona Strip, all the places that I read about, and as I started exploring the desert here, and wanted to go deeper into it, and I had an old International Scout, and it broke down on the way going into Death Valley. The PVC valve on the straight six had come out, and so it was just like bleeding oil, all over going up that grade, and we had to wait for 2 or 3 hours, and I was just standing out there. It was freezing cold. It was like 25 degrees, watching the sun come up over the Funeral Mountains north of Baker, and it was just, it was like Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments, except it was saying, you got to figure out how to come back here and live here. Yeah. So that was it, and I didn't do it for a long time, another 20 years. Yeah. But once I did, it was like, this was the point, all along. Yeah. And it's become easier, as this is evidence of, to be out here. We're still remote. It's still wilderness out your back door, but until you say something that's not factual, you can be on Facebook here.
Yeah, it is. Isn't it amazing that we can literally hang with thousands of people in this place? Like, that fantastic. Still boggles my mind.
And people who want to, it's not just, they're not just assigned.
Right.
Right, like you got your Zoom meeting at work.
Right.
You got to go watch a folk singer.
No, they are voluntarily.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Hanging out with us right now. Yeah. It's bananas. Actually, your story is so close to Allie's story, and she was out here about 10 years ago, working at slinging barbecue at Pappy and Harriet's, and she was working for this sculptor, Steve Riemann.
Yeah, I know Steve.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. So Steve and Ruth are like our besties out here. We hang with them.
What an introduction to the area.
Yeah. They're my surrogate parents.
Yeah, that's it.
They're like the pioneer cool people here.
They were the pioneer cool people. Totally. Yeah. Totally. Their story is amazing. Yeah. For sure. And and she left because she had to, and started hanging out with a miscreant from Boston, and we've been there, but her heart has always been here.
So you had the plan too. It was just a matter of making Adam think that it was situational.
Adam thinks it was situational.
Yeah. It's because of the pandemic. I'm sorry we have to do this. This is going to be your life. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah. It is so true. Like, this came up. We got this house a year and a half ago. Like, I got home from a tour, and Allie says, Adam, I know it doesn't make any logical sense, but I found this listing, and I think we have to buy this house out in the desert. It's in a pile of rocks. It's tiny. It's made of plywood, and it'll probably blow over in a stiff wind, but I think we have to do it. And we did it with the thinking that we were I did it with the thinking that that I was gonna be. We weren't gonna have space in our life for years to be
Right.
Really
you might
be
see
able-
it every year or two or
right.
something.
And oh man, it has been so soul filling to be here and to know that I can still do what I love to do.
Yeah.
Even from this space. It's
Yeah.
an amazing thing.
And we're not that far away from getting to go to honky tonks again. It's close.
It's not too far
Close. I can see it now. Like last year, it's like, I don't know if I can see it.
away. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And now it's in view.
It's through the mist.
Yeah.
It is.
There's like a lot of roadblocks and people making kind of little armed camps along the road before you get there, but it's up there. I hope.
I want more than anything for my gatherers to hear you do some storytelling. But before we do, I there's only been reference to it here and there, and we were just having a chat when you showed up about some of the folks that we've opened for, Dwight Yoakam and Los Lobos,
Yeah.
who were in your scene back in the day.
It's true.
You
and
were a musician.
That's what I did for college.
That is.
Instead of going to college,
Yeah.
I had like Professor Country Dick Montana
That's
from
an
the
education.
Beef Farmers and
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave and Phil Alvin
Yeah.
throwing bottles at each other
Yeah.
at the Belly Up Tavern.
The Belly Up in
Yeah.
Aspen.
No, in Solana Beach.
Solana Beach.
It's a good stop between LA and San Diego.
Oh, okay. All right.
Um,
Was that your haunt, the West Coast?
My haunt was the West Coast.
Tell me, what were you playing? What were you doing?
Well, I love the kind of music that you do for your art and your work, and I love hillbilly music especially, and I also love punk. I grew up in punk and new wave and ska, and there was just this fantastic scene, and I didn't play anything, but it was punk. You just learned.
Yeah.
Like get a guitar, and it was like, I'm gonna go to the music store and get the Buddy Holly Big Note songbook or something. And so I started playing just to be part of the world. I was a writer, and I was doing newspaper stuff and zines and college radio and stuff. And it was just this wonderful environment that split off. There's John Doe made a book. John Doe from X made a book called two books, Under the Big Black Sun and More Fun in the New World. That's collections from all these people from like the Go-Go's to Los Lobos, the Screaming Sirens. There was this scene, and it was very fun. And it broke off when punk in California went into this kind of fascist skinhead scene.
Yeah.
So it like split. So like all the people of various races and sexualities and politics who were no longer welcome, like we're gonna go do something ourselves, and like musicians commonly do time and again, went to like what are the roots of stuff we can return to. It was fun. It was.
Were you just kicking around different bands, playing around?
I had like a kind of revolving band that went around. We did do a record. We were called the Outriders. There was another band called that later, and we were signed to Wrestler Records in Austin. With Lucinda Williams.
Wow.
And the Tailgaters.
Is there any way that I can listen to this music?
The original record is long gone. Most people who do any kind of art or writing or something do a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And one part of it ends up being what you do, like for your living.
Yeah.
And like whenever you see like some actor, like this used to happen in the 80s and 90s a lot, like a actor would kind of make it, some kind of grungy looking character, and then they'd be like, oh, I also play music. And people would be like, you don't play music. Go to hell, you know?
Yeah.
You're just an actor. But they really did.
Right.
It's just that's not what they finally made a living at.
Right.
And so whether it was like Juliette Lewis or Russell Crowe or
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. They're like, I want to play in a band. So, so I still play around with it for fun.
Yeah.
But what I figured out, I did music for a while. I've written books. I've done fiction. I've done journalism, kind of like more first person kind of journalism stuff. I did political journalism. I worked on blogs, and then when I got to the Desert Oracle stuff, I'm like, I can do all the stuff I want to do, and just call it that and call it work.
Yeah.
So we do performances, we do club shows.
Yeah.
Rob will come out with his 300 synthesizers, and make this like UFO bank behind me, and I go out and tell campfire stories, and
That's so cool.
it's fun. It's fun.
Well, it is. We have this thing in our show when we go on to stage. We never have a set list planned. We never have a.
Yeah.
And I was just reminded, reading the Desert Oracle, it felt like that. It felt like, oh, I'm going to start here. And this story is going to end up way over here.
Yeah.
You're not going to know where this story is going to go. It's going to be titled something totally, it might clue you into how the story's going to start, but it's not going to clue you into how the story's going to end. And whether it was tales of UFO sightings or true like historical horrors that took place in the desert, or things that shaped our culture today that have passed through this place at one time or another, it seems like there are no rules for you in what you're doing with the Desert Oracle, in your storytelling. If it inspires you and you want to tell the story,
I think so. And what I find with a lot of these stories is like there might be like a line of narrative, like so and so, this human character did this or that, but through that trail that they take, they come across the history and the. Hey, there's your raven.
There's the raven.
Did you hear the song?
He's ready for your story. Look at that. He's coming close.
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
Hi there. I hope you're not the one from my house that keeps tearing the line off my swamp cooler.
No, that's that one right there.
Oh, good. So, when you live in a place, and not just a desert, but when you live any place where you're engaged with where you live.
Yeah.
You know, it can be an urban neighborhood. It can be a swamp fishing town. It can be where we are in the high desert of the Mojave. But if you're kind of conscious of where you are, then you'll feel all these threads of everything that has happened before you were there, and they're everything from kind of odd esoteric stuff, the kind of stuff that brought Castaneda out here, you know, with the Don Juan books, to military stuff, black projects, occult things. You know, a lot of people look at, say, like the Manson family story, and they forget the roots of the Manson family were in a break-off of Aleister Crowley's OTO in Los Angeles called the Solar Lodge. So it was ritual magic. And it was a real bad group that went off on the side and thought, we can kind of use this as a weapon against people.
Yeah.
And
the belief that there was a hidden city under the ground.
Oh, God, yeah.
In the desert.
Yeah.
That nobody knew about. An ancient hidden city, right? I mean,
yeah.
I learned about, because I have not done a lot of reading on Charles Manson, but because of because your stories intertwine with his story, you made reference to that to that underground city in
Yeah.
one of your stories.
Well,
and the
that,
folklore.
that folklore existed, both old, deep folklore, indigenous Tembesha Shoshone folklore from Death Valley, and cheesy 1960s TV westerns that Ronald Reagan hosted.
Right.
That's where Charles Manson heard about the underground city or the underground paradise under Death Valley.
Yeah.
That's where they were going to wait out helter skelter.
That's where they were going to wait out helter skelter.
He had these bozos diving into hot springs to see how far it went. He's like, did you find it?
And dropping rocks to see if they could find the bottom.
I don't know,
right?
Charlie. It's like about 40 feet. So,
will you tell our gatherers a story?
I'd be happy to tell
All right,
a story.
I'm going to give you.
I'm
going
gonna
to give you the
story about
stage.
kind of where we are.
All right. Hold on a second. I'm going to take this too.
Yeah, you're going to need
Go
those
get 'em.
picks. And then I'll also watch for the cutoff button, in case we say something wrong. Well, hi everybody. I can't read your messages
They go fast.
from here, but I see them. I can read the emojis. So thank you all for not leaving when Adam brought on a desert rando. He owes me some money for land dispute, easement. In fact, this place where we are did not have a lot of private property owners before the 1940s, 1950s. And the reason was nobody wanted to live here. There's no water, there's no telephone, there are no roads, there's no grocery store. There was nothing here. And it was a long drive of very bad roads from Los Angeles. Palm Springs was kind of just in its infancy as a lunger resort, place where you went when you got the tuberculosis, like Jimmy Rogers. So there weren't a lot of people up here, and the people who were here were a little rough around the edges. There was a German American. In legend, he became a German immigrant who maybe had Nazi sympathies. This was totally untrue. German immigrants have been coming to North America for 400 years. And Kreitzer was his name. And he became known as the guy who would clear the roads around here. So he cleared a lot of these roads in the high desert of the Mojave. He cleared Retchie Road up in Landers and some of these places. And the reason why he had any necessity to do that is because the U.S. government was trying to get rid of some of this land. They're like, it doesn't serve any purpose. We don't want it. Let's see if we can get some people to homestead it. So you could come out here and homestead 5-10 acres or something, and all you had to do was go to the office, which was near where present-day Yucca Valley is, and say, I want a homestead. And they say, all right, and they get out a big piece of paper. No phones, no cell phones, nothing, no maps. And they get something out and draw. Well, you go up here and you turn right at the wrecked truck, and then kind of go up there for a while, and you just kind of go over the desert, and you'll know it when you get there. So people would do that, and in order to keep the property, you had to prove up. You had to build a cabin, and that was your improvement. That showed you were serious. So like Ronald Reagan got a homestead plot somewhere in the high desert. We think it was Wonder Valley. We've never figured out exactly the plot. The reason was because he lost interest. He was busy. He was rich, whatever. He didn't build his little cabin. He didn't prove up. He didn't get to keep his land. If you proved up and had a little cabin, it was yours. So now if you come out here and stay in an Airbnb, a lot of times there are these little homestead cabins, jackrabbit homesteaders they're called. So Kreitzer's clearing roads, and He's kind of an oddball. He goes up to a place called Giant Rock. This is a rock that's 7 stories tall, and is one of those worst possible, English language names. It's like a name in Australia or something. It's just completely descriptive. Giant Rock, like the snowy mountains in Australia. And so he goes there and he dynamites out underneath it and he builds him a house. And he's like, I'm gonna live here. I'm gonna be a little troll. And through the kind of accidental but kind of on purpose string of coincidences that often bring people out here, like you, Adam, he met these guys at a gas station in Venice Beach, California. This is in I believe, the early 40s. And these guys included a guy named George Van Tassel, who was working for Howard Hughes Aircraft Company in like quality control, the airframe integrity division or something. And so they get to talking, and through the course of kind of a short conversation, they end up giving this guy from Giant Rock some money to invest in his mining operation up here. So George Van Tassel was also a small plane pilot. He claimed he was friends with Howard Hughes, and there are stories of Howard Hughes later coming out here to visit him. And George starts flying out in his little plane and landing just in the sand. Is very dry. There's like not a lot right there around Giant Rock. And they end up cutting an airstrip, spending some time there, and George starts kind of feeling it in his bones, something about this place. Well, conveniently, the German American, who was not an immigrant with Nazi sympathies at all, was just a desert oddball, got in a battle with the cops and kind of ran under Giant Rock to his hobbit hole down there, and he was going to do a Ruby Ridge kind of thing, fight him off. And the story is they fired back at him, and because he had made all of his furniture out of cases of dynamite, as one does, with like Mexican blankets over them, the whole place just went up. George Van Tassel, upon hearing the news, tells his wife, let's go move into that guy's place. So up they come to Giant Rock. They build a cafe just outside. They finish improving the airstrip. Mrs. Van Tassel makes famous pies, and the hobby pilots of this era start landing there to have coffee and check out the desert, have some pie, talk to George Van Tassel. About this time, George Van Tassel wakes up in the night, and there's a 6-foot entity standing in his room. And it looks like a medieval king. Kind of long, blonde, Prince Valiant hair, and a blue sort of cartoon jumpsuit with a belt and high boots, like one of the Avengers or something. Or an angel. And the entity tells George that he's from another civilization in space, and he wants George to do his bidding. So George decides to start doing the bidding of the entities that are speaking to him. He's already been doing deep meditation under the rock. So there's some sort of deep kind of energy vibes coming from beneath this rock. The UFO craze started in America in 1947 with Kenneth Arnold up Washington State, another small plane pilot. He saw 9 boomerang-shaped things that were kind of skipping through time and space over Mount Rainier. And suddenly everybody was interested in UFOs, especially in Los Angeles. Los Angeles was filled with a bunch of bored people who'd moved out here from the Midwest, Cleveland, Des Moines, whatever. And they'd left everything behind, their communities, their churches, their ties to reality, more or less. And they were very much into the UFO thing. So George started having UFO conventions here at Giant Rock. By the peak of these UFO conventions, which were covered in Life magazine, there were 10 or 12,000 people who would make this long, rough trip up this rough road to stand out, get blasted by the sun, and listen to the contactees stand up on this wooden platform and tell people, Ashtar spoke to me. This is his message. And people would be like, selling things, t-shirts, neckties with UFOs on them. As these UFO gatherings continued and meshed with the counterculture of the 60s, a lot of 60s people got into this stuff. For instance, Graham Parsons, who would later, end his life accidentally, not too far from us in Joshua Tree. Graham Parsons was heavily into the UFO subculture, as was his friend Keith Richards. They used to sit up on that barber chair, on the mountain watching for UFOs. And so there's a picture from 1971, I think it's the last big UFO gathering, of Graham Parsons and Michelle Phillips in front of Giant Rock. Smiling, looking beautiful, and like a bunch of UFO fanatics behind them. Well, George eventually started building this thing that he said the space entities had told him about. The thing that's called the Integratron today. It's a big white plaster dome. He said it was like a time machine. It would rejuvenate you. It would make you young again. It would put you in touch with the Pleiadians, etc. He had a newsletter, the College of Universal Wisdom. Sometimes if you buy a little cabin up here, you'll find a stack of yellowed old George Van Tassel newsletters. And then, supposedly, the legend goes, and these things build up, they get more dramatic, the longer the space is between here and then. Now, right before he finished, he dies of a heart attack. He had no symptoms beforehand, but... And after his death, according to his survivors, a bunch of mysterious trucks pulled up to the Integratron, and they took all the papers and all the electronics and drove away. Now, you never know. It could have just been his creditors showing up to pick up the Xerox machine and the typewriters and everything. But the legend persists that something happened there. So to this day, you can't do it right now because it's the pandemic. But people go up there, you get on your back on a yoga mat, and somebody plays these eerie glass bowls, and it kind of echoes around your head, and you're supposed to get some kind of vibes. The only problem is these entities have been showing up and telling people stories for, as far as we know, thousands of years. And they always tell stories that go with the times. So, if it was the 1800s and you were in Ireland, well, you'd be seeing historical Irish figures going through the countryside. Those were, the gentry, the good people, the spirit world. But out here in the new world, in the space age, the entities come and they say, we're from the stars. And the only problem with people who listen to them, to the entities, to the messages, is they almost always turn into crackpots and end up dead. So if you're out on a desert highway and you see a UFO in the sky and it comes over you and it hovers and you get the beam of pink light, hopefully you're already in a field of work that will tolerate a crackpot, because you're going off the deep end So watch the skies. They've been pretty busy lately, according to the UFO watchers. And if you're in the desert, make sure you spend at least one night sleeping outside with your eyes open. And you might just see something that'll enlighten you and wreck your whole life. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I like that. It was very moody. You're kind of scaring me over here.
That's it, man. So I love it. I love and I don't. You are a cavalier, and you have a lot of fun with a lot of the stories and the folklore in the desert.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's fun stuff.
It is super fun stuff, right? Like it is a joy to read about, to listen to you talk about, to think about, right? But I'm not as light as you took that at the end of the story. There has got to be a good part of you, even that I've read in your writings, that is a believer that there's some stuff going on that we don't really understand.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our pitfall in the modern world, and the internet helps this because it amplifies kind of the goofiest parts of things, like QAnon.
Yeah.
Is a good example of it. But there's just as many, internet conspiracies about anything in any kind of realm, and we don't usually know how to leave something weird alone. We have to run over and start slapping explanations and theologies on it, whether it's, they're space aliens, they came from such and such, or is Mother Mary, or is, the old Shoshone Indian chief has shown up and given me a message. Like, really? Like the famous Betty and Barney Hill story from New England. This is a couple in 1961 driving New Hampshire highways at night, and something comes out of the sky and they lose their memory and everything. Well, over time, their memory was kind of like reconstructed through hypnosis and through a sketchy hypnotist as well,
right?
Which kind of goes with the business, who encouraged their belief that this was what their memory said it was. And Barney Hill, it turned out, what he described, it came to him a little bit after, but I actually saw a science fiction show called The Outer Limits that had that same scenario. And before that, he had remembered them as like Nazi experimenters.
Right.
So there's these weird layers of cultural perceptions and memories and prejudice that go into these things, and it makes it hard to have a kind of transcendent view of the wonders of being in nature, of the sort of hypnosis that you can get into by yourself walking a trail in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that people have. I've seen strange things out here.
I've read about you seeing strange things out here. Yeah. And
Yeah.
but I think that you take particular joy in the telling of the tale, and also joy in the telling of the explanations that people come up with for the things that they can't explain, which is a joy for so many of us that follow your work and your writing.
Well, thank you. Well, it's
fun.
I think it's also is an inspirational part of it, because there's a subtext to a lot of these stories, which is it's okay to be weird.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
better in fact to be weird. Don't hurt anybody.
Right.
You know, don't be Manson weird.
Right. That's weird. That's
But-
bad weird.
Yeah.
There's a
Like-
bad weird.
Like
A lot of your stories have bad weird.
they
in
have
them.
bad weirds. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the Twin Peaks sort of world where
Yeah.
there's good weird, kind of charming,
Or at
and
least harmless
funny
weird.
and harmless.
Neutral weird.
Yeah, and then there's Bob. Who is a hell demon from another dimension. Who is sort of suggested in Twin Peaks was let into our reality by a magic ritual done by L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons in the Mojave Desert.
Who also are noted.
Yeah, they have a lot
multiple
to
times.
answer for.
They have a lot to answer for. Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is such a treat. You don't understand. My gatherers have only had me to tell them the damn stories up until this point.
Wild.
And so it's
Thank
really
you for
nice.
letting me come. Get in your frame.
Can
Here.
we? And before I let you wander back to the campfire over there, and before I play,
into this Irish whiskey.
that's
which
right.
is
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very good. Mother's milk.
Before I play a last song with them, and then join you over by that fire. Here's what I want us to just finish up with, because I want my gatherers that are with us here live, but also that the thousands that are going to see this after we're live, I want them to know how best to follow you, because there are so many ways, and obviously impossible. It's an impossible question for you to answer, but there's a book. There is the book. There are also the Desert Oracle periodicals
Right.
that they can become a member, and they can get these
Mailed to you
them.
at home. They're real.
And
No phone required.
But there's also the podcasts, which are a joy, that also incorporate in music. And now the podcasts, are they straight from your
They're straight from the radio show.
That's great.
28 minutes, the exact show.
Because
And
it's
that
only a
radio
couple towns around here that have access. So
Right.
when you kind of broadened that and opened it up, I think that is such a great thing. And right, it's so, if you're doing a radio, I mean, it's a great thing. So I know that people are finding out about you all over the country. Maybe that's a good first step.
I think, my favorite thing to do
Yeah.
right now, especially in the pandemic, because there's a lot of stuff that I used to be on the road more.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do campfire stories every month at the Ace in Palm Springs, and we have like 300 people around the fire. They have a
that's
camp
awesome.
bar. I cannot wait to do those again.
Yeah.
And that would be like my visit to civilization too. So
Totally.
I'm going to Palm Springs. I'm gonna, go do this show and talk to a bunch of people and eat at a restaurant.
That's it.
And maybe stop by the boot store or something. They got retail, or they used to. We'll see. But the radio thing is like this is with you and your online family here is. I get a lot out of it because I know people make time to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's Friday night, 10 o'clock. I made it late at night so that when I went into the radio station, I told Gary, the owner, I said, he got the magazine, so he let me talk to him. And I said, I want to do this show. And he's like, well, we have community shows on Sunday afternoon. I said, no, I don't want to be in the dead zone.
Yeah.
Like the local music hour, it's like they're great shows, but
Right.
they put them on when there's the least people listening.
Yeah.
So it's got to be late at night, and I want it especially like when people are coming up to the desert, driving at night, and it starts, and you start getting it. So
Yeah.
that's been my favorite. You can get it on like iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora,
And even your podcast app on your iPhones, if you have one, you can just look up. You can look up the Desert Oracle, and you can find it there.
You can tell that surveillance device you have in your house if you have one. Alexa, or Siri, whatever, play Desert Oracle Radio, and it'll make a little note. Watch this person. They're gonna get weird. They're gonna start talking about God and peyote. So that's it. But whatever you find, if you find the magazine somewhere, it's a fun thing to pick up in person.
On this post, gatherers, I have a link to the Desert Oracle website, which I believe is just desertoracle.com.
Yes.
And our chaperones will be reposting that for you on the chat board right now. But if you want to have fun, but also learn. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot about this place.
Oh, I'm glad.
That I live in a really kind of joyous, not taking itself too seriously, fun way. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome. And when you do that with anything that comes from the place, you feel like it's more home.
That's it.
So I really live here. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not just passing through streaming Netflix.
Yeah, man.
Well, thank you, Adam, so much.
Thank you for
I'll
passing
shake your
through.
hand next time.
Yeah, back when things are better. I mean, I couldn't. I was too enthralled. Shipwreck Tom goes, "You had this whole time to tune your guitar, man." It's classic. We've gone a little late, haven't we? But that's okay because we're used to breaking rules at the gathering. That's how it goes. And I want to thank you all, especially. You know what? I know that these nights when we lose connection for one technological problem or another, or maybe it's government surveillance issues, that it's hard to stay connected. And I want to thank you all for sticking with us on this. This was a special night for me, and I can tell just by some of your comments it was special for y'all too. Pretty cool. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to the wind at our backs. May it always blow steady wherever you roam. May it turn when you're ready to carry you home. May it keep you ahead of the rain. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to the heavens above. Some say it's a glance of God's great design. Some say it's the science of all things combined. May we look up and always feel wonder. Here is to us and all that we see. Here's to our hearts and the air that we breathe. Here's to the round and good company. Here's to the drink that we share. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to this time that we had. For these moments pass lightly and won't come again. May our lives all burn bright, right up to the end. May we live them with joyous abandon. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to the end of the day. Let us drink to the work when the working is through. Let us drink one to me. Let us drink one to you. Let us drink one to those who aren't with us. Here is to us, and all that we see is to our hearts and the air that we breathe. Here's to the round and good company. Here's to the future. Here's to the past. Let us drink one down slow. Let us drink one down fast. Let us drink one as if this night is our last. Here's to the drink that we share. Oh, here's to the drink that we share. Thanks, friends. Well, it's been a good one. By the way, I officially lost my well-told cup, so now I'm resorting to the flask, the well-told flask. Thank you all for hanging with us. Thanks to Ken for being here. Thanks for Devil's Gate Jill and Shipwreck Tom and Allie for keeping us company on our little hill in the desert. I'm feeling lucky to be with you tonight. Please stay safe. Keep on looking out for one another. And I'll see you tomorrow.